Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here for the Soonerscoop.com studios on Campus Corner. A rainy Tuesday, George. Welcome in. It is, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's starting to feel a little bit closer to like football weather and like middle of October, end of October, as we have Halloween coming up. Have you picked out a costume yet?
I haven't dressed up for Halloween in some time. Usually
So
we're
you've
working.
Retired.
Yeah.
You've retired from Halloween.
I have. I will eat some of the candy. I'm a big Reese's guy.
Okay.
I don't know about what's your favorite Halloween candy?
I'll go Reese's. I'll go.
Oh, so we're the same.
Yeah,
How about
peanut butter
that?
cup. I throw those in the freezer.
Dude, you're talking my language.
I mean, come on.
Are you dressing up?
I know people that had 6 foot bongs in college. I was about to say high school. Maybe I did. I'm not admitting to anything. I know I'm well versed in the candy game when it comes to putting it in the freezer. Have you ever tried that move?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's great. It's fantastic. I want to know though if you're dressing up.
I don't think that I'll be dressing up this year. And by the way, folks, I know, I get it. I'm wearing the same quarter zip I wore yesterday. I've never been this paranoid about the things that I wear. I put that on the Crimson Corner yesterday. I get it. That's on me. My bad. I should have brought something else to wear.
Twice on here.
That's a lie. First off, you did tell a lie to a lot of people today. Are you willing to admit that you're not able to outshoot the OU basketball team?
I still stand by my take. I think that I could in a very perfect scenario where it's a 3-point competition and you get 25 shots around the perimeter.
Okay.
Give me a week to practice, man. I can shoot it.
Now we need a week of practice.
Well, they get to practice all the time. Why can't I get a week of shooting?
Well, they probably do need to practice. Porter Moser entering his third year. We will have plenty of wrap up from media today on Tuesday in Norman. Talk to a bunch of the new players. Talk to Milos Uzon as well as Otega Owe and a bunch of those guys that are coming back for Porter Moser's third season in Norman. First things first, though, it is football season. It is OU Kansas week. Oklahoma will be headed up to Lawrence on Saturday at 11 a.m. kickoff. And George, I think that preliminary talk about what this is going to be. It's going to be a really tough challenge. We just got back from Brent Venables' press conference on Tuesday. A lot of similarities in what we heard a week ago with Gus Malzahn's offense, as well as what Kansas is going to bring with, I think it's expected, Jason Bean to be the starter on Saturday for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, and I don't know where Brent gets this stat of deceptive plays or whatever.
Is it a made-up stat?
It might be, but this is 2 weeks in a row now that he's brought up that statistic. I think last week he said UCF was number 2 in the country in deceptive plays. Kansas number 1 is what he said. So a lot of eye candy. We're going to hear that term a lot, too, from the players. We heard that last night on Monday, talking to some of the guys about, hey, they're going to throw a lot of different stuff at us. We saw it against UCF, right? The sprint draw, the play right before the half, where they beat him on the long touchdown. You're going to see Kansas do a lot of the same stuff. Maybe it'll look a little bit different in terms of schematics, but that's what makes Kansas's offense really, really tough to beat, is they do a lot of different things where they're trying to trick you.
Sure, and, we talked to Ethan Downs about that on Monday night as well, George. It seems like it's one of those things that you don't do, you don't have to make the play every time. And I think that Ethan talked about that quite a bit on Monday in terms of going back and looking at the tape against Central Florida. Just do your job. Be where you need to be.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Those plays, I mean, you even think of the UCF play. They had, John Race Plumlee, hemmed in there on that play, and Woody Washington tries to come up and make a play. His guy gets behind him and gets beat. And that's what they're talking about, is just do your job and everything else will play out. And, Brent is going through practice, going over some of the stuff that Kansas is going to throw at him, where they're going to try and get you out of your position where you're not doing your job. So that's the difficult thing. And look, Kansas is going to make some big plays. They're one of the better offenses in the country. They've got good players. You mentioned Jason Bean. He's going to be the guy at quarterback this week. One of the better backup quarterbacks probably in the entire country. Could probably start at a lot of different places. Devin Neal, one of the better running backs, just a great playmaker for them. And we'll get into Kansas and kind of their personnel later down in the week on the game day preview. But I think for the sake of just in general, Oklahoma knows defensively it has to be aware at all times that Kansas is going to take advantage of some of those things.
You said the two words. I think that they've become kind of buzzwords here over the last couple of days, covering Oklahoma, deception, and what teams trying to do offensively, as well as getting your eyes in the right spot. And here is Brent Venables, as well as Dasan McCullough and Ethan Downs talking on that.
Yeah, they just play a lot more consistent, more sure of themselves, and the aggressiveness and the precision come with that, when you're looking at the right things and reacting to what your eyes are telling you to do.
Stay disciplined all week. Now we know we got to stay disciplined with our eyes all week because we saw what happened. We thought we were disciplined with them during the week last week. Come game day, obviously not. So there's a lot of stuff we got to fix just with our eyes. Really, it's all little stuff. It's all about us, not really the opponent.
It's just practice habits lead to game realities. So, we have that saying around here a lot. How you step, where your eyes are on your key. Your key, whether you're down keying or you're getting a reach block or whatever it is at a DN position, reading your key, playing fast and violently. And even in a walkthrough, it's not really a walkthrough. You're going boom, boom, boom. It's just no contact with the pads. That's all it is. And on the days we do have pads, being physical and violent, just like you're in the game. Coach V wants to make the practice even more intense than a game. So being disciplined in those moments where it's more intense and more chaotic than a game makes us prepared for the game, makes the game slower and easier.
You just get the feeling that as a coach, what's it like when you see that player, the light bulb just pop on and
No,
they
it's
got
fun.
it?
Yeah, it's fun. Obviously, there's a lot of freedom in that, when the player is able to play that way. So you can move on to the next problem. That's really where you go.
It's always awkward when Brent throws out like a joke because everything's so serious usually during a press conference, and then he throws out a joke like that at the end. I always get a kick out of that in the back. I know that nobody can see me laughing, but I am.
I'm always serious. I never joke around at work.
Well, as you should be. You should be. And you're a little bit on the shit list right now, and you need to probably shape up a little bit.
I'm trying.
As far as what Oklahoma has coming up against Kansas, you look back at the Central Florida game, and I don't get the feeling that anybody's hitting any panic buttons. They overall played well. It's just about the bust that they had that opened the door for Central Florida. Hit them for some big plays, and I think it was pretty obvious on Saturday.
Defensively, I thought Oklahoma played pretty well. I mean, you take away a handful of plays, it was one of their better defensive performances. They get beat on a couple reverses for big plays. The big play before half is just a tough play to defend. That happens. You think back, they almost had another goal line stand if Jaren Kanak doesn't get the unsportsmanlike penalty.
Sure.
So it feels like on the defensive side of the ball, that confidence is still there, and that they're not too worried about some of the issues that they had against UCF because it's a unique team. And again, they're going to play another unique team this week in Kansas, but it's very rare that you face a team that does that much trickeration like UCF did.
I think it was on Brent Venables' coach's show on Monday night. He talked about it, and Jaren Kanak, I think, even said it, after the game, just in terms of they worked on that sprint draw. I think like 1,000 times during practice last week, and then they pop them a couple times. And I'm sure that is the type of stuff that Brent Venables is able to come back in on Monday and just absolutely have a cow about it.
I think he said on the coaches show something like they repped it 35 times or something, and they repped, I think, that exact play 10 times and still got beat on it. And that's the stuff that I'm sure he gets really frustrated about. But people also forget they also ran some other sprint draws in that game, and Oklahoma did a really good job defending them. So, look, every once in a while, you're going to get beat. And it's just like in college football, man, like it's tough to be great every single week. We really haven't seen a team in college football, maybe other than Michigan, which who knows what's going on there, that's played great every
They might have
single week.
known it was coming, right?
Exactly. So it's tough to be really, really good every single week, and you're going to have bad performances. The key is for Oklahoma not to have another one. Don't let it build again this week against another interesting opponent.
We'll get to Oklahoma's defensive line and the importance of that. Or Mason Thomas starting to come on more and more. But let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. George, you asked Brent Venables today. Let's just actually bring that up here as far as Brent Venables was asked today by George about the running back rotation. I know that's become quite a talking point right now in Sooner circles. Here is Brent Venables with George today.
Yeah, Brent, I wanted to ask you about your running back rotation. Who ultimately, I guess, decides who's going to be that guy, and how much input do you have in that? And do you think Gavin can be your guys' guy moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, DeMarco's the CEO of his position. Ultimately, all the responsibility is mine. I'm not sure if I've ever had a head coach tell me who I can start and who I can't, as long as everybody's in good standing. That's, the position coach. That's why you pay them, to make those decisions. But certainly, hey, get so and so in the game. Things of that nature. And a lot of it's based on what they do at practice. And there's a body of work always. But Gavin did some great things as the game went along, and we know what he's capable of. And this is a game of doing, and we need those guys. That room, I believe, when we're playing like we're capable of playing, and in all phases and all the different areas around them, that should be a position of strength for us.
Do you still anticipate Tawi being back this week?
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Obviously, good news there with Tawi Walker coming back after a 1-week in-house suspension, served against Central Florida. George, let's start here. Just your read on that, just in general.
I think Brent is ready for them to maybe have an established guy, and he's not going to come out and say, hey, DeMarco needs to do this or they need to do that at running back or whatever, throw anybody under the bus, especially the players. But I do get the sense that they're ready to have somebody be their guy moving forward, and they need it. You look back at last year, Eric Gray was their guy all along. He had a great season. It just feels like at running back, no one's been able to get into a rhythm, and I think that the fourth quarter on Saturday, Gavin Sawchuk kind of showed what he can do. I think he had 7 carries in the fourth quarter, 59 yards, including the 30-yard touchdown that you just saw. He's the guy that, to me, looks the most explosive. He's starting to get healthy. He was dealing with the hamstring early in the year. It just feels like they're ready for somebody to step into that role. And with Tawi being suspended, I like Tawi. I think he has a role on this football team. But to me, I think that's what the indication is. And that's kind of what Brent, I think, somewhat hinted at. It's like, look, DeMarco's going to make the decision, but he's going to, Brent can step in and say, hey, I think so-and-so should be in the game. And I wonder if moving forward we start seeing Gavin, because it feels like Gavin is the more opportunities he gets, the better he gets as games go on.
Gavin Sawchuk finishes with 10 for 63 on Saturday. As George just said, the 59 in the fourth quarter. Marcus Major goes for 18 for 82, and they actually ended up with 189 yards, which I think that was the third highest total all season. I think that, I don't know. I read that in the game notes, and I read it again. I was like, did they really go for 189? And I think that's the most frustrating thing, is that there are times where it looks really, really good, but the negative has probably outweighed the positives in terms of what an Oklahoma run game is, and how much is that on the offensive line, how much is that on running backs. It's a combined effort of bad right now.
I think that's the big question, and I kind of asked Jeff Lebby that after the game on Saturday. He's like, where do you put the blame here, I guess, basically? And he said it's everybody. It starts with the offensive line needs to get a better push. Maybe there needs to be better play calls, the scheme of what they're trying to do. Maybe they need to put in a different running back, mix it up more. But I think if they can just find that one guy, and right now I say Gavin's the guy, he might be the only option, really, when you think about Javonte Barnes. Doesn't sound like he's healthy. I mean, we haven't seen him since the Tulsa game. Marcus Major's clearly banged up with the shoulder injury. And then you've got Tawi, who is suspended, and then you've got the 2 freshmen, Caleb Hicks and Dalen Smothers, who I think they're just not ready to play yet. That leaves Gavin Sawchuk. It's his job, I think, to lose. So, again, I think with Tawi coming back, you're going to see a lot of Gavin and Tawi kind of being that 1-2 punch moving forward.
Are you a buyer in that, what you saw out of the fourth quarter out of Gavin Sawchuk? 2 things. He is still relatively rather young.
Yeah.
Very young when it comes to just on-field experience. It seemed like he got more comfortable as the game went on. Now, they didn't necessarily, and he didn't help himself out either there in the first series when he drops the snap and then he drops the screen, which I think you brought up on the Eskridge Lexus postgame show. If he just catches that, there's blockers out there, particularly on the screen is what I'm talking about on the third down.
I think he has only had 2 games where he's had 10 or more carries this year. And that goes back to last year. So the Florida State game, he had 10 carries, I believe, for 100 yards. And then he had 10 carries, or maybe it was 15 carries, 10 plus carries. He's only had twice in his career. And that was Florida State last year, ran for 100 yards.
Sure.
And then this year, the 10 carries for 63 yards against UCF. So when he's gotten the bulk of the carries, or over 10, he's been really productive. And maybe he's just somebody that it takes a while for him to get going. And I also thought they tried to get a little too cute with him early in that game. Like you said, the direct snap, then the screen pass, and it just didn't work. And then we didn't see him again for like 2 quarters. So it's like, how about, you just try and let him, and I don't want to sound like I know better than the coaches.
Well, I think that's what you're saying here.
But all I'm saying is I would like to see one game where they say, okay, Gavin, you're the guy. You're going to get 15 to 20 carries. You're going to be our workhorse, our bell cow for the game, and just see what happens, because I think that he's a guy that can get in a rhythm and really build that momentum. You saw that in the bowl game against Florida State.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that you look at what Gavin Sawchuk is, like, if you can get the type of guy that I think a lot of people around here think he could be, I think you're perfectly fine with the run game. It's going to be interesting to see when McCade Matauer comes back on the offensive line. Let's just real quick just get into the offensive line stuff. Savion Byrd looked pretty damn good at right guard when he was able to come in for Caleb Schaefer. Was that because Schaefer got banged up a couple times on the Nick Anderson touchdown? The second one, he was helped off the field. McCade came in. I actually saw him out in the parking lot today. He said he's doing really well. So I don't know. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens. I do think, though, Caden Green's found at home at left guard.
I would be shocked if Caden Green's not the left guard the rest of the season. He's learning every single week. He, being a true freshman, look, he's going to make some mistakes here and there. I thought he played really well on Saturday. Super physical guy. You can tell he's smart. It's starting to click for him. So I would assume he's a left guard going forward. With McCade out, I think it's going to be Savion Byrd. And the reason I say that is, look, it's still mentally coming together for him, and you can tell that at times maybe he's misreading things because he's used to playing left guard.
Sure.
And he's still learning how to play up front on the offensive line. You can tell he's still a young guy, right? This is only how many games has he started now in his career? 4 or 5. So he's still learning a lot, but he was just the better option there at right guard over Caleb Schaefer. And with McCade out, I think he's the guy that they're going to roll with moving forward. And I also think Schaefer is a little bit banged up. So they're thin up front, man.
Yeah.
And they really need McCade to get back. And again, he's a guy that maybe isn't the flashiest guy, maybe won't play in the NFL someday, but boy, he knows what he's supposed to do. He's in the right spots at the right time. And he also, I think, is a good presence for a lot of those guys up front.
With the questions swirling around the running back position, it does seem like we're starting to get a better idea of the wide receiver position. And, obviously coming out of the bye week, that was going to be a big question mark, is how are they going to fill the void left by Andrell Anthony with the season-ending knee injury sustained at the Cotton Bowl, George, and Nick Anderson. I mean, all the guy does is create plays. It seems like he's becoming more comfortable within himself, and he adds 2 more touchdowns to the total now. 8 touchdowns on 16 receptions for Oklahoma so far this season.
What's his yardage at? He's got to be getting close to, I would think, 400 yards receiving this year. But
387 is
387.
So he's just 13 yards short.
Yeah, so good math by me. But he's been great, man. Like, and his role is only going to increase, right? With Anthony going down, I wonder if he can become that third down guy. We saw that late in the game against UCF. I think it was a 3rd and 9 on that final drive. Sawchuk scores, I think, on maybe the next play. It was a huge catch. It got open down the field. So I think he is somebody that can step up, fill that role. I think Jaden Gibson's another guy. But yeah,
he had a big grab on Saturday
3rd
as
and
well.
12, I
Even
think.
though you don't score the ball there, it extended the drive.
Yeah.
They were able to flip the field with Luke Elzinga, who was magnificent on Saturday. I think Oklahoma's found their punter moving forward. So, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest performance by any means at the wide receiver position, but it does seem like they have guys. There are guys that are ready to make that jump, if you will.
And I think it might take some time, right? It's going to take some time building that chemistry with Nick Anderson. Farouk, I still think, is going to be in the mix.
Sure,
he didn't have his biggest game, but Drake Stoops was phenomenal. I think we're going to see more Petaway. I think they're going to start working him in a little bit more. You're going to see more Jaden Gibson as he continues to make some big plays. But yeah, Nick Anderson right now, man, he's on pace to not only lead the team in touchdowns, but also I think receiving yards. If he keeps this up, he's slowly creeping up on Jalil Farouk. I think now is the leader.
The redshirt freshman Nick Anderson was brought up at Brent Venables' press conference on Tuesday. Here is Brent talking about the emerging redshirt freshman.
Yeah, that's it's good. You know, obviously he was hurt most of last year, and even this year you're like, golly, this guy's been just. It was just one injury, so it's not like, and it's no one's fault. It's not like he asked for it, but he was snake bit, and so just trying, can he get to the field? Is he going to be an available? You know, the best ability that you can have is the availability, but he's always been, since I've known him as a freshman, mature beyond his years. You know, his focus and his perspective on things and his work ethic has been outstanding. He's been a great teammate. He's never pouted, you know, never felt sorry for himself. He's just worked. That's what he did. Even through the rehab, he just consistently continued to show up, didn't have any doubt, you know, about the trainers and what their plan was, even though he continued to not, you know, get healthy like he wanted to or have the result that he wanted to. He just kept showing back up. So I think all that hard work and that maturity and the toughness that goes along with that mentally have prepared him for this moment. And you're right. You know, the more opportunity he's had, the more he is really has over-delivered. And so that's exciting. You know, proud of Nick and all of his work, and you know, and he's done a really good job, you know, this season.
The Anderson family is leaving quite the legacy at Oklahoma. So that's offensively, I think, a good wrap-up of everything that was covered on Tuesday. One of the guys that is starting to emerge, and I think that when you look at Oklahoma's defensive line and especially getting after the passer, somebody that is going to certainly help that is R. Mason Thomas. And he started to flash just a little bit on Saturday against Central Florida, and he was a guy that, you know, I think it's been well documented. He fought through some ankle injuries at the beginning of the season. I remember going out there to one of the viewings, I believe, and I was like, uh-oh. Is that R. Mason talking to a trainer? And sure enough, he was you know, held out of the first couple games. He hasn't really been a big presence for Oklahoma on a defense that has taken steps, as I'm sure anybody that is watching this knows. It seems like just getting him back on the field, just getting him healthy, and talking to him on Monday night certainly helped that this thing's moving in the right direction.
He's just got a little bit more twitch to him than I think some of these other guys. And that's not to say these other guys aren't playing well. I think the defensive end group has been really good for Oklahoma. I think they've totaled 17 sacks this year, which ranks 45th in the country. So right around the middle of the pack, you know, they've sustained six. I mean, Ethan Downs has been awesome. Rondell Bothroyd has been really good.
Trace Ford had a good game on Saturday.
Trace Ford was really good. So you add a guy like R. Mason Thomas, who was thrown into the fire last year, got a lot of experience as a freshman. I think he's somebody that can be a big difference maker. And sometimes Oklahoma is good at getting to the passer. Sometimes they're not. And I think he's somebody that can win a lot of one-on-one matchups on the edge. We saw him. I think he played 19 snaps against UCF. He had 3 quarterback hurries on 10 pass rush attempts. So he's a guy that's pretty productive, and he's going to get home eventually. And he, you know, we talked to him yesterday, Eddie, says that he's feeling really healthy. He's an intense dude. I mean, he has some great eye contact. When you ask him a question, he's staring through your soul a little bit. And even then talking to Ethan Downs a little bit about him too, you can tell he's an intense guy when it comes to practice and being focused. And so you can tell he's excited to be back out there. I think his snaps are going to continue to go up as long as he continues to be productive. And again, it just adds to a group that's been super talented and super impressive so far.
Here is Brent Venables as well as Ethan Downs talking about the addition of R. Mason Thomas.
He was our best in fall camp until he got banged up, and it was a high sprain that he was given the green light after several weeks. But as y'all probably know, covering injuries, that the high sprains are kind of funky. You know, sometimes you'd rather break it. There's a better healing process, a more concrete healing process, if you will. But he's starting to feel good, and I think that the confidence piece, he's actually banged up both ankles. And so it's been really frustrating for him. And for us, he's long, he's got incredible speed and explosiveness, super twitchy, plays with great power naturally. And he was really coming into his own. So hopefully we can get him back on track. And it was good to see him have a little bit of success last week. And my expectation is to see to develop in a positive direction as we move forward.
Yeah, R. Mason's a dude. He's fast, he's athletic, he's smart, and during fall camp, he beat everybody out in the DN position. And you know, he's I don't know how to say this. He's wired. He's wired the right way. He's always in tune. He's always focused. When it's time to ball, he's there. His eyes are always right. And he for being a young guy, I've been so impressed by him and trying to mimic a lot of his qualities with his discipline and his footwork and things like that, his flexibility. And it's made me a better player. Coach Che's been great bringing in more competition with the transfers and the young guys. That has made all of us better and across the room.
Seems like he's got a little extra twitch to him.
Oh, yeah. Dude's twitchy. He's a freak. Yeah.
I think that should get everybody pretty excited. And, you know, R. Mason did say on Monday night that he is up to 240 pounds right now. I don't remember what he was a year ago. And
I want to say he was like 220.
He was light. Yeah, he was light.
So he's
Very
put on
light.
some good weight.
And I think that, you know, people on the Crimson Corner are already thinking about and imagining what an R. Mason Thomas on one side and what a P.J. Adebawore could do together in terms of getting after the quarterback here moving forward. But
I think they're like 19, man.
Yeah,
they're like
they're young.
19, 20.
Well,
They've got so much more to go.
even with R. Mason, I think that people forget he was just a freshman last year.
Yeah, and he wasn't somebody. I mean, what was he? A 3-star, 4-star? You know, and I think he wasn't he originally committed to the previous staff and then stuck around? Or
Yeah,
am
I believe that's
misremembering?
right.
Yeah,
I believe that's right.
You know, look, he's got a ways to go, but I think you can see the raw talent is there. And again, he's like some of these other guys we've mentioned throughout the show. The more opportunities, the more snaps they get, they're just going to get better and better. And so I'm excited to see what he can do in these final, 5 games of the regular season.
No doubt about it. A lot of positives here with the Oklahoma program, but one of them that has been, I don't even think it's been criticism. I think it's been a negative is the kicking game. And it was brought up on Tuesday at Brent Venables' press conference because of Zach Schmidt's woes in the kicking game. Does that make them more aggressive offensively? And this was Brent Venables' answer.
Everything goes into it. You know, that's a long. You want me to take up everybody's time? With all due respect, there's a lot that goes into it, and Zach has been really good. He missed a couple the last few weeks, and that's not good. And this is again, everybody is held to the same standard. We don't have great depth there. And a week ago, we had some guys banged up, as well. But I believe and have confidence in him, but we got to be better. That goes without saying.
So there it is. George, I think this is something that we've talked about. The reality is Zach Schmidt's missed 3 of his last 4 kicks, and I don't know how many more times we got to say it. Like, how many more times are they going to play with their food until it comes back to bite them. And, I think the more you get out of the experience down at the Cotton Bowl and you realize how poor they were in the special teams that day, Luke Elzinga was a bright spot on Saturday against Central Florida. But at the same time, do they make a change? And that's where you get into the discussion of something that Brent Venables talked about on its coaches show, something that you just heard him say. They're thin. They were down a couple kickers on Saturday, it sounds like.
Yeah, Gavin Marshall, the typical backup redshirt freshman from Frisco, wasn't even suited up on Saturday, which I don't think any of us had realized. And so when you find out that, you're like, okay, well, no wonder they stuck with Zach Schmidt. Now, I don't think we know if Gavin was injured. Was it a coach's decision not to have him suit up? Eddie, I don't know if you know the answer to that question, but
I don't know the answer. I need to find out the answer.
And we probably should have asked that at the press conference today. But, look, I think that at some point, Eddie, they either have to switch it up, unless Zach goes out there and just nails a 50-yarder this weekend and is great, then maybe, his confidence is back up and you move forward with it. But,
and it's a fickle thing. We talked to Luke Elzinga about that just in terms of specialist and, what do you say to somebody like Zach who's going through a little bit of a low point? And it's like you just try to stay as positive as possible. I mean, that's truly all you can do. It's a lot like a golf game, a lot like a golf swing. Sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. And I would say that I wouldn't put a percentage on it. I'm not Dean Blevins, but there has to be some type of confidence that you can get. And it's not just kicking extra points. And that's why, when you talk about, are you going to be more aggressive? Like, say you get inside the plus side of the field, you get inside the 25 or something. Maybe you do run them out there a couple times and try to get some confidence built, but you're also playing with a little bit of fire there. and that if he goes out and he misses a 42-yarder, then all of a sudden you're right back to square one.
I'm to the point, if they're inside the opponent's 30 and it's 4th and 5 or less, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I just don't trust him to make those. Now, maybe you trot him out there for a long field goal try just because, I actually think he might be better from distance.
And I don't think that Brent's lying either. When you asked him after the game on Saturday, he was asked about it again today and almost kind of tripled down as far as the confidence that he has. I don't expect him to say anything different.
No, and if he came out and was like, I'm not confident in him, then that would really shoot the kid's confidence. So,
Sure.
I don't know, man, but I'm at the point where it's either you start going for it or you let Gavin Marshall have a try. So we probably need to figure out what's up with Gavin Marshall. Because you're right. At some point, there's going to become a big kick, and he's going to have to make it, and it could cost him if he doesn't.
And especially with games on, this weekend on the road in Lawrence,
Yeah.
next weekend on the road in Stillwater, you got the game at Provo, and then, obviously the last 2 home games against West Virginia and TCU. He might be needed at some point, and that's just kind of the life of a college kicker. I think that, everybody knows the hashtag that's always out there on Saturdays, but they got to tighten that up, or it's going to get them beat. I don't know how many more times.
And look,
we can
they
say
tightened up the punting situation,
Sure.
which we'll see if Luke Elzinga can continue it.
Yeah,
but
you got to continue to do it every Saturday,
exactly.
right?
And now it took 6 games for them to try
Sure.
Elzinga. So I don't know how long it's going to take for the Schmidt deal to answer itself, but I think you just have to hope that either they figure it out or Zach Schmidt just turns it on.
Real quick, last note for our Tuesday practice report here on Soonerscoop.com's YouTube channel. The final question that you asked today. There's been some murmurs. Obviously we saw Peyton Bowen with the boot on after the game on Saturday. Sounds like it's all good there. I mean, it's not all good. He definitely has a sprained ankle, but moving forward, I would expect to see more Peyton Bowen on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think it was a high sprain ankle, which would mean, kind of like our Mason Thomas situation where it's lingering or he's going to have to miss a game. I anticipate Peyton Bowen to play. It sounds like he's getting healthier is what Brent said today. And I also kind of asked, like, hey, how does he get on the field more when he is healthy? Because I think that's a question a lot of people have is because every time he's out there, he's making big plays. And Brent kind of said, hey, look, if he keeps making those type of plays, he's going to get more opportunities. And so hopefully if he can be healthy, we're going to see a lot more of Peyton Bowen moving forward. So I don't know if that's this week. Again, it depends on how his ankle's feeling. But, dude, the kid's a stud. He's somebody that's going to be a star player for this program for a while. And so the earlier he can get on the field, the better, I think, for Oklahoma.
More Peyton Bowen, more R. Mason Thomas. It seems like last week was a step back because you look at the final score. But, and that's one thing that I don't know if we've talked about enough in terms of, and we hit on it on the Eskridge Lexus postgame show. When you have a team, when you have a group, and particularly this group in Brent's second year, that spent so much time during the spring, so much time during the preseason in August, talking about finding ways to win in the fourth quarter, finding ways to win close ball games. You can't bitch and complain when they win a 2-point game, right?
100%. And I think that there's certain guys that have really stepped up in those moments. I mean, we haven't talked about Dylan Gabriel because we talk about Dylan Gabriel all the time. He's been fantastic in the fourth quarter,
Sure.
leading the offense.
And it's something that they were not a year ago.
Exactly. They've been able to run the ball in the fourth quarter. I know we all complain about them not being able to run the ball. They've actually been pretty effective in the fourth quarter. They get stops when they have to. Down the stretch, I know that UCF was able to go down and score, but to stop the 2-point conversion was big. And they were also, the defense was really good throughout most of the day, keeping them in the game, not letting UCF separate when they got up 6. So, look, they've been really good down the stretch. And that's the thing, Eddie. I think everybody looked after the Texas game and said, man, that back half of the schedule, there's no way OU shouldn't run the table. And that's probably the right take. But these games are going to be closer than you think, and these teams are obviously going to give Oklahoma their best shot. You're going to have some tough road environments. I think Lawrence is going to be pretty rowdy on Saturday morning. Obviously, going to Stillwater is going to be a great time, and then I would assume a night atmosphere, late game in Provo is going to be fun too. So these games are going to be tight, and so far Oklahoma's shown, even going back, Eddie, to the SMU game, when SMU cut that game, I think it was 14-10 there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What did Oklahoma do? They went down on 2 straight drives and ended up winning 28-10, I believe. So I think that they've been really good down the stretch in games, and that's been a big difference for him.
No doubt about it. Oklahoma looking to go 8-0 for just the second time in the last 20 years coming up on Saturday. We will be right back here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel for the Thursday Kansas preview. Make sure you hit up and tap into the Unofficial 40 on all your podcasting platforms on Wednesday. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Brodasevich. We'll talk to you next time.